Welcome back to Good Morning Texas. I have here with me author Heather Birch here to talk to us about the whole young adult craze and a novel of her own. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Thank you for having us here. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much.
So let's just talk about, this whole young adult craze that's happening right now. You're seeing Twilight, we're seeing Hunger Games, we're seeing a bunch of novels aimed at, young adults being turned into movies. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's awesome. I think it's great. My son went to see Hunger Games. He'd not read the books, and I tried to get him to read the book. I'm like, you're going to love it. You've got to read it. And he went over the weekend. I think he might have even gone opening night, but he is so into the stories now. He's like, where's book 2? I got to read book 2. So I think it's great because it really encourages kids to read something that they might not have otherwise.
And how old is your son?
16.
16, all right. So then what do you say to someone who's a little bit older and sees themselves as, too cool to read young adult? I mean, someone who's a 35-year-old dad who says, it's a young adult book, I can't read that. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, my husband's reading Hunger Games right now.
Okay.
So and he's a little older than 35. And he actually, I had tried to get him to read it before too, and he was just busy and, I'll read it later, I'll read it later. Once he got into it, I mean, he'll have it done tonight, and he started reading it yesterday or the day before. So you can't be too old to enjoy a young adult novel if it's a well-written novel, if it's a well-written book, and the storyline is there. Any age can enjoy them.
Okay, so then what makes this kind of thing young adult? Is it the themes? Is it going to be the reading level? Like, what makes it specifically young adult and not for anyone?
Well, and that's an interesting thing because the young adult books are becoming for anyone, but honestly, it's not really the reading level anymore. Maybe there might have been a time that it was, but now the YA novels are extremely sophisticated, and that bar is always being raised a little higher and a little higher. So I wouldn't say that it's that. I think the key thing a little bit can be the themes, but the biggest thing is the age. The age of the actual protagonist, the age of the actual main character. If she's in the teen age range, it's going to be definitely considered a young adult book.
Okay, well then with that in mind, how can adults find relatability with these if these characters are young in comparison to these adults that are reading them?
Well, I think for one thing that every adult has the moments of thinking back to when they were in high school and wishing they'd handled a situation in a really cool way. And so for older adults, we get to kind of relive a lot of situations because a lot of the same situations will show up in young adult novels. Although not all of the young adult novels, because they're dealing with paranormal things. They're maybe dealing with angels and demons and vampires and whatever else. So, but all in all, you're really getting a chance to kind of relive moments when you were in high school, and you get to relive them with the perspective that you have as an adult, and that makes it kind of more fun and really introspective.
Okay, so then in your opinion, this whole young adult, do you think this is, a craze that's, really hot right now, or do you think this has just been a thing and we're kind of just noticing it just now?
It's always been a thing, but it definitely has expanded. The market for young adult books has expanded, and the competition for great young adult books is just phenomenal. I've read several books from people who maybe might have asked me to read something that are fabulous books, and they haven't sold yet because there's just so much. There are so many books competing for that shelf space at the bookstore. So it's a really tough market on one hand, but it's also awesome because it's a really wide open market. And that's one other thing that's great about, I think, young adult books is we're exploring a lot more avenues. So that's pretty exciting too.
And then speaking of young adult, you have your own young adult novel, don't you?
I do. It's Halflings, and it is it's available everywhere. I just stopped by a couple of bookstores here in town, and they asked me to sign the books that they had on the shelf, and that was exciting. Plus, they had sold one yesterday, so that was cool. He was like, "Oh yeah, we had so many on the shelf, but I sold one yesterday." So that's really neat for an author when you can stop in somewhere and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just sold your book,"
Right.
So, but yeah, it is definitely in the paranormal realm. It's called Halflings. And it's just been so much fun. And it is a series.
Right.
It's another big trend in young adult.
Right.
Because we kind of fall in love with those characters and we don't want to leave them.
Right.
So that's a big trend. And so this is a series.
So what makes Halflings different from all other ones? What is Halflings about? What makes it so interesting and gripping for people who want to read young adult right now?
That's exciting. It's exciting for me because you never know. When you're writing something, for me, Halflings was like, I started writing it and I was like, I don't ever want to write anything else. I love these characters. I love this story building. I love the world building. It is so much fun for me. And so now that it's on the shelf, 'cause it just released in February, it's already in third printing. So it is doing really, really well. And that is so exciting because to me it was different and odd and not exactly what you're seeing out there, but people are really responding to it. And it's a story of Nikki Youngblood, and she is being hunted by men and demons, and she turns to 3 half-human, half-angel young men for protection. And they've been sent to protect her, so that works out. And in the midst of that, 2 of them kind of fall for her.
Okay, so then what are your inspirations for this? I'm feeling a little bit of that Twilight, Vampire Diaries, love triangle, but what inspired you to write this?
Well, the 2 main characters that are the boys that fall for Nikki, Mace and Raven, are very much almost carbon copies of my 2 boys. And so, writing their characters, I feel like I've written them, they're very real, In fact, if I hit a snag on, how would Mace handle this? Or what would Raven do in this situation? I go to, what would Isaac do? And what would Jake do? Because that's my 2 boys. And they are very much like the 2 main characters. So, so that made it easy for me because, I'm living with these boys, so.
And then, so your sons, have they read the book?
Yes.
And do they just love it? Do they see
They do, but they see themselves in it, so, and it's funny because I was joking earlier, all of my younger son, the one that's 16, all of his friends know that if they say something clever, it might end up in my book. And sometimes I'll nail him down on it. My son's best friend is named Nick, and I'll be like, "Did you just make that up?" He'll be like, "Yeah." "Really? You haven't heard that anywhere?" "No." I'm like, "Okay, that's going in my next book."
Going in the book.
Yeah, and they do. I mean, they do pop up, so.
All right, so then why young adult for you as opposed to any other kind of fictional book?
I didn't want to write young adult. I did not. I was working on a women's fiction novel. It was going extremely well. I had a publishing company interested in it. And literally, well, a couple things. One thing, I'm a huge X-Men fan. I love the misfit. I love the one with a superpower that everybody rejects. So that had been playing in the back of my head. I want to write an X-Men type story.
Right.
So definitely Halflings is an X-Men type story. But the other thing was that these teenagers, I guess this story idea had been working in the back of my head for a long time, and these teenagers, like one day, they just, like a light flipped on and they would not shut up. And I told my husband, I said, these teenagers are talking in my head, and I see all these scenarios, and I see all of this storyline. It's just laid out, like book after book after book. And actually what he told me was, Heather, you need to just take it and vomit it onto the page. And I know that sounds so disgusting, but what he meant was just get the story out, just get it out there, and then you can go back to your other book. Well, I've never gone back to the other book, and I really don't ever want to. I don't even care about it anymore. I just want to write Halfling stories.
Well, it's very fortunate for you to have all these ideas and creativity. I mean, I have trouble writing, a 2-page paper sometimes, and here you are with all these ideas for a planned series. And how many books did you say are planned for?
I am under contract for the first 3, which is kind of a trilogy. So, book 1 is Halflings, and it released in February, so it's out on the shelves now. And it has been on the top teen fiction list at like Barnes & Noble and places like that. So that's really exciting to see. And then Guardian is book 2 in the series, and it releases in September.
Right.
And then book 3 will release in, well, I don't know for sure yet. I haven't gotten a release date, but it should be about 6 months after that.
Okay.
And they just gave me, I have my own game app. So there's a Halflings game that you can download if you have an Android or a iPhone or iTouch, any of that. You can download the game, so you can, test your skills at, being a halfling.
Well, that's so awesome. Good for you. And so
Thank
you're
you.
here with your publishing company here in Austin doing a couple of things. What exactly are you doing with that?
We've got book signings. I've been speaking at schools, and it's just been a blast. I'm here with Jill Williamson and Bill Myers. Bill Myers has written many, many, many books. Jill Williamson has one book with our publishing company that we're with now. She had a series that was out before that. So I'm like really kind of the newbie. But yeah, I mean, and they're both great, and we're really having a great time.
So how has this impacted your life? I was reading an article, not too long about Christopher Paolini, the author of the Aragon series. I mean, seeing how his life is just whirlwind out of control with this kind of novel. How has this impacted you?
It has, and it's kind of crazy, but and I just signed a shopping agreement just recently with a producer in Hollywood.
Wow.
When the Hollywood things happen, that is what really will spin your life out of control, Or I don't want to say out of control, but, well, yeah, sort of, out of your control. Now, it's not an option yet, so, but she's working to put together a team, and so it's very possible that Halflings will be a movie within, the future at some point. And that is a scary thought. I mean, it's so exciting, and I'm a huge movie person.
Right.
So that to me would be the ultimate. But yeah, I mean, it will definitely, and already it has, it does impact your life daily, especially. I'm really big on doing a lot of, I'm online a lot, I'm talking to readers, I'm talking to reviewers, and so, you can find me online easily. The Halflings have their own network now. They have like their own little social network, and humans can join too. So it's really cool because people are a part of the story now, and like I got 2 new names for Halflings this morning while I was out of school. So, because the Halflings all have a little bit unusual names.
Right.
So I'm always kind of on the hunt for an interesting name. So.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, you have your books, some games, social network, a movie. I mean, that's exciting.
It's exciting,
Do you have anyone in mind for characters in your movie yet?
No, I don't know. I mean, I do kind of in the back of my mind, but I don't know.
Right.
Nikki, the main character, Nikki Youngblood, she's very much tomboy. She's tough. She rides a motorcycle. She's a black belt in karate, and she's an artist. So she's a really unusual mix. So it's really going to take the right person to be able to pull off that role, And the boys are the boys. I mean, the Halfling boys are, they're daredevils. So whoever it will be flying a lot. They're going to have to not be afraid to do a lot of stunts. So.
Well, congratulations on all your success. I mean, this is extremely exciting for you, and it's interesting to be able to see how this is going to progress on into the future.
Yep, it is. It is. It's interesting for me, and I'm having a blast. I really, really want to encourage people who love writing, don't give up. Stay with it. And if you have a story or an idea that you're really passionate about, don't give up on it. Just keep going.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. This is so exciting.
It was great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, make sure you stay tuned to Good Morning Texas right here on Texas Student Television.